Greetings and salutations to all the viewers who are watching this video today. Today we shall be learning why 0 factorial is equal to 1 and why factorial of a negative number is equal to not defined or infinity. But to understand these two phenomena, we will have to understand what a factorial means. Now, generally, a factorial in the mathematics is represented by an exclamation mark. But to understand in more depth and detail, I shall be taking two simple examples which I have experienced from my daily life, and I'll be explaining it in this video. And the first example would be about my assembly. Well, one day what happened was I was called for an assembly and my class had 30 people, and we were supposed to assemble in our auditorium. So as soon as we reached the auditorium, what happened was we spread ourselves and we were just simply talking. Looking at this, our physical education sir had asked us to arrange ourselves in a line. But my question at that moment, which struck my mind, was how? Our positions were not fixed. I could have stood in the first position, in the second position, in the last position, in the middle position. It was not fixed. So, pondering upon this, when I was coming back to home on the same day using the public bus, at one stop there were 5 people who had boarded the bus. So, just to explain my second example, I will assume the names to be A, B, C, D and E. And there were 5 seats in a bus. In that bus. So when person A first came to choose a seat, he was looking at all of the 5 seats and thinking which of these to choose. At the same moment, even I was also thinking, in how many ways could this person choose a seat? So when I realized this, I understood that he could choose one of these 5 seats in 5 different ways. When after choosing his seat, it was person B's turn to choose a seat. And looking at the remaining seats, which were 4, he had only 4 different ways in which he could choose a seat. Similarly, person C could choose his seat in 3 different ways. Person D could choose his seat in 2 different ways. And finally, person E chose his seat in the last possible way. So, to find the total number of arrangements possible with these seats and these 5 people, I concluded that we have to multiply, because as per our concept of fundamental principle of counting, this is a situation of AND, because all of these people are sitting together at once. So, to find the total number of ways, we would have to multiply all of these numbers, which would be 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 equal to 1, which is 120. So when I looked at this product, I felt that a simpler way to write this would be in 5 factorial. At this moment, the true meaning of factorial struck to my mind. Well, a factorial is nothing more than an arrangement of an object. So suppose let's take n objects we have. So to find the total number of possible arrangements, it would be n factorial. So now, in terms of in mathematical terms, n factorial can be written as n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 into n minus 3, so on into 1. which is basically nothing but the product of the first n positive integers. So now that brings us to our question to prove why 0 factorial is 1 and why factorial of a negative number is not defined. So let's just find 2 factorial for now. So 2 factorial will be written as 2 into 2 minus 1 factorial. Okay, so similarly we could write 1 factorial is equal to 1 into 1 minus 1 factorial. Here 1, by definition of factorial, 1 factorial will be 1 and 1 minus 1 would be 0. So 1 is equal to 0 factorial, since anything into 1 is the same thing. So from this we prove that 0 factorial is equal to 1. So this proves our first condition. Now for our second condition, let's continue with this same thing, and now let's take n as 0. So 0 factorial will be written as 0 into 0 minus 1 factorial, which would be, since we proved 0 factorial is 1, it would be written as 1 upon 0 is equal to 0 minus 1 is minus 1, so minus 1 factorial. So minus 1 factorial would be written as infinity or not defined. So this is just for negative 1, it's not defined. Similarly, for any negative number, its factorial would be not defined. So we have proved our main 2 questions for the day, which is 0 factorial is equal to 1 and the factorial of a negative number is not defined through the concept of factorial. Well, we can prove that 0 factorial is equal to 1 in one more possible way, and that is through the method of combinations. Well, what is a combination? A combination is nothing but the number of ways in which a selection can occur. So let's take an example. So in this example we have 5 balls in one bag, and we are supposed to select 3 balls at a time. But which ball has to be selected is not specified. So from 5 balls, any 3 balls could be selected at a time. So to calculate the number of balls that could be selected at a time, we will use the formula 5C3, where 5 is the total number of objects and 3 is the number of objects to be selected, and C is the combination, which is nothing but the number of possible ways in which selection can occur. Also, let's write a general equation now. Let's say NCR, where n is the total number of objects and r is the number of objects being selected at a time. The general formula would be n factorial upon n minus r factorial into r factorial. So now, when we have n objects and we are selecting n objects, all of the objects at a time, that is only possible in one way. So according to our common sense, we can say that NCN is equal to 1. Now let's also derive this also, NCN, in terms of the formula. It will be written as n factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial. Now since left hand sides are equal, the right hand sides will also be equal. So we can write this as n factorial upon n minus n factorial into n factorial is equal to 1. So here, as we simplify, we will get that 0 factorial is nothing but 1. So here is another way in which we can prove that 0 factorial is equal to 1. Through this video, I hope that the viewer has been able to understand what truly a factorial means and how is it applicable in our daily life situations, and that combinations are also an important tool in our life, and that Most importantly, but the viewer has understood why 0 factorial is 1 and y factorial of a negative number is not defined. Thank you very much for watching this video.